All right, we're going to take the next step and take what we've been learning and put it to work. What you should be looking at right now is an arrangement of chords. It's called Triads in the key of C. Triad, 3-note chord. There is one exception to the 3-note chord, and we see that the G dominant 7. I'll explain that when I get to it. The very first, back up a second here. There's 3 variations of each chord in each measure. 3 types of C major, 3 types of D minor, E minor, F major, G dominant 7, A minor, and B diminished. These are all the 7 chords that are in the key of C. The very first of the 3 in each measure is the chord in its root position. You notice it's very symmetrical. If the bottom note of the chord in root position is on a line, then you just stack up line, line, line. C, E, G. D minor is begins on a space, on a D, D, F, A, etc. down the line. Now, the only exception to this 3-note per chord rule is measure number 5, where there's a G dominant 7. The reason I decided to put this dominant 7 4-note chord in here is because G7 plays a very pivotal role. It's called the 5 chord in every key. It's a traffic cop chord. And the G really needs that 7, or I'm sorry, the F natural, to make it sound like it needs to sound. So everything is a 3-note chord except for that one. Now, the reason I have different inversions, different variations of each chord in each measure is basically just to explain to you that no matter how you arrange the notes in a chord, it's still that chord. So whether it's C on the bottom or an E on the bottom or a G on the bottom, and they contain all 3 of the notes, C, E, G, it's a C chord. If it's a D minor chord, it's got to have the notes D, F, A arranged somehow. We're writing for a string quartet, so there's going to be 2, possibly 3 octaves sometimes between all the instruments. They're not all going to be squished together like this, and all the notes aren't going to be put together in an order that immediately makes sense. So if I look at the notes between the violin 1, 2, the viola, and the cello, and there's a C, E, G, C, well, then I know it's a C chord. What we're going to be doing is we're going to take the 2 notes from our major melody, and we're going to write down what 2 chords those 2 notes could come from. And then we're going to take the note that's missing and put that in the viola part. And then we're going to put the root of that chord in the cello part. And you're going to hear something pretty amazing. So without further ado, I'm going to stop, and we're going to load up the melody, and we're going to do some work here. All right. Now, let's put what we've learned so far to work for us. We've got our very first melody in a major mode, and as you can see, I've chosen a whole bunch of notes here. But let me tell you what we did. Here's the process I went through, and this is one of the first things I learned to do. I took a look at my first 2 voices. I have a C. I'd written the violin and violin 2 part, violin 1, violin 2 part, and I see that I have a C and an E. Well, what 2 chords have a C and an E in it? Well, and then I wrote that on top. Well, it could be a C or an A minor. Very good. Next measure had a B and a D. That could be in a G chord. Look at our other worksheet up here. That could be a G major chord, or it could be a B diminished chord. The next measure has an A and an F. Well, that could be an F chord. It could be a D minor chord. Now, again, I'm just thinking in terms of triads. I'm not getting out in the sevenths yet. That could be an F major chord or a D minor chord. Now we have, in the next one measure, we have a G and an E. Well, gosh, that could be a C chord. It could be an E minor chord. Next chord is we have a G and a C. There's only one chord out of all the ones we have here has a G and a C in it, all the triads, and that's a C major chord. Next, we had an F and an A. Again, that's going to be an F chord or a D minor chord. Next measure, we have an F and a D. Well, that could be actually 2 things. That could be a B diminished 7, or it could be, I have a thing here called a G dominant 7. A G dominant 7 is a G triad with another note, an F attached to it. I'll explain more of that later here in a minute. But just know that we could use a G dominant 7 here, and it's called the 5 chord. I'll clue you in a minute what that means. But just know this could be a G chord or a B diminished. And the last measure could be a C or an A minor. Well, I made some choices right to start with. First of all, we're in the key of C. I want to start and end it on a C major chord. So that's what we did. C major chord. That was my choice. I wanted to keep this really, really, really simple. So I kept it all major chords the first time around. So the first measure, I called it a C. Next measure, I decided I was going to use a G chord. And then next measure is going to be an F. Then a C on the fourth measure. C once again on the fifth measure. I went to an F on the sixth, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I went to a G chord. Even though there's an F in it, I picked a G chord. And then I went to a C chord to end it. So now what are my choices? Well, we got to fill in the notes. Here's what I did. Measure 1, I have an E and a C. What note's missing from that triad? Well, a G. Well, I put that G in the viola. Notice it's got a weird little clef sign here. That is a C clef. So that means that middle line where those two backwards looking C's intersect, that's middle C. C, B, A, G. This note is a G. That's the note I'm missing to make those two notes a C triad. So I put a G in there. I look at the next measure. We have a B and a D. Well, still needs a G, so I put a G in there. Next measure has an A and an F. What note's missing from an F major chord? Well, a C. So I put a C on the viola. Next measure, you have a G and an E. What note's missing to make that a C major chord? A C. There's my C. Then we went to a C chord again. I have top measure is a G and a C. What note's missing? An E. I played it. All right. I played it. I put it in there, so in the viola. And then the next measure has an F and an A. What note's missing from an F chord? Well, a C, so I put a C in there. Next chord, I said was going to be a G chord. We have a D up there. We have an F. What note's missing? A B or a G. I picked one of the two. B is really close to C, so I put a B in there. And our last measure is a C chord. We have a C and an E. What note's missing? A G. Then what I simply did is I went back to the very beginning and I put the root of each chord in the bottom voice, the viola. So it's a C, G, F, C. C, F, G, C. So here is what it's going to sound like. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Now, what if we made different choices? What if I chose, for the first measure, let me put this back here. What if I chose for the first measure an A minor chord instead of a C major? All right, well, what note is missing? We have an E and a C. We need an A. So I'm going to put an A in the viola. And we go to a B diminished next. We have a B, a D. We need an F. So I'm going to put an F. I'm going to go to a D minor next. Well, D minor, we got an A and an F, so I'm missing a D. So let's go to a D right there. Next, we're going to go to E minor. We got a G and an E. We need a B next, so I'm going to put a B. And then we stayed on a C. So we have a G and a C there. G and a C. Gosh, we're missing an E, so let me put an E in here. Here we are. And next chord would be a D minor instead of an F. We have an F and an A. We're missing a D. So I'm going to put a D. Here, G dominant 7, we could also put a B diminished in here. So I'm going to go with B diminished. We have F, a D, I need a B. And then we're going to end up on an A minor again. Right there. So now I'm going to put the root of each chord in the bottom voice. So I have an A minor. I have a B diminished. I have a D minor, so it's a D. Then I have an E, C. I have a D minor, so there's a D in the bass, and a B, and an A minor. So now let's listen to what that sounds like. Pretty awesome. Let's listen to the whole thing from the very, very, very beginning. That was cool. Did you see how just changing up the chords, change it from a major sound to a minor sound, from a happy sound to a sad sound by using minor chords instead of major chords? We didn't have to go all minor or all major. We could have swapped them in and out, and you would have come up with lots of different combinations of notes. Now, what we're going to do next with these notes is I'm going to show you how to start to alter the song even a little bit more. Now we're going to start messing with note values, note length values. We did the horizontal work with the first two voices. We have done the vertical work when we added in the other two voices, picking chords and putting in notes. And now we're going to do what I like to call connecting the dots. So stand by. This is where it starts to get really fun. Mr. G out. Bye-bye.